Well, thank you, Joel. We'll catch up with you a little later on. Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet has approved amendments to the Electricity Regulation Act for public comment. In his State of the Nation address, he announced that an independent state-owned transmission company will be established. And joining us now for more reaction is Mike Rossouw, the CEO of Independent Energy Thought Leader. Mr. Rossouw, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to The Full View.
Good evening, everybody.
Good to have you on the show this evening, sir. Now, President Ramaphosa's cabinet has approved amendments to the Electricity Regulation Act for public comment. Do you see these amendments enabling a competitive market for electricity generation?
I do, actually. Look, the announcement is long overdue, and it's very important, and it's good. But you have to remember, these things were announced, I think, like 10, 15 years ago, and we've seen nothing of it. Eskom has for a long time needed to separate its generation and transmission, at the very least. But for various political and self-interested purposes, it never happened. So we'll see if it happens. I mean, the president has announced that it should happen, but let's you and I see whether it actually does. I'm not too sure that it will, because it requires a lot of action and implementation. Policy is one thing, but action is another.
And this announcement comes on the back of yet another announcement that South Africa will be getting a massive hybrid solar plants. And it begs the question then, if the renewables energy output is intermittent, or that solar is only available when the sun is out, I mean, how would you dispel such a misconception?
No, you're quite right. Using the word misconception, it is a misconception, and it's actually promoted by people who are against renewables. Yes, renewables are intermittent, but you know what? With batteries coming onto the market, and they are now cost effective, they've been proven to be cost effective in Australia and America, now elsewhere. PV power with batteries is not only as good, better and cheaper than coal.
And then liquefied natural gas, I suppose, has also been punted as a viable energy solution. What's your thought?
Yeah, this has been punted many, many times before. I personally have been involved in the Department of Energy with this issue, but it's a lot of talk and a lot of policy, but no action. The action is where it's missing. I mean, the president has spoken many things and promised many things, but we don't see any action. And I'm getting somewhat tired of promises, but no action. Liquefied gas is a great thing, and we should bring it into the country. It's a good thing. So I support it. But where's the action? Where is the action? Let's forget about policy. Where's the action?
Well, it may be less carbon intensive than coal, but it's still a fossil fuel.
No, it is indeed. But you must remember, you're talking about transition. Those are your words.
Yes.
And I'm using them. So the transition means that you've got to transition from one energy source to the other. That doesn't happen overnight. I think you and I well know that. So you've got to plan a transition from the one to the other. Also remember that whilst we don't have much natural gas, we have in the north of us a lot of natural gas. So the importation of natural gas is purely a matter of the politicians getting together and sorting it out, and a deal with, for example, Mozambique and others. But to your question, natural gas is a good thing, but we need action, action, action.
Well, the president also announced a push towards a hydrogen strategy for South Africa, which will address the country's energy issues and transition to greener fuels. Not much has been said, though, about hydrogen.
I know, and I personally have been involved in this discussion many, many times before. Now, the hydrogen discussion is a good one, although it's a theory. Let's just put it this way, it's a theory. So if you were to map something out in terms of priorities, right on the top, solar power with batteries, next is maybe liquid fuels, and way down at the bottom is liquid hydrogen. We're dreaming about that at the moment because there's so much to be done. No action, no action.
Let's talk about government, the possibility of government accelerating the establishment of an independent system and market operator when it comes to energy issues in South Africa. Where are we in South Africa when it comes to that, and where should we go? Where should we move?
A very important issue, So we've always needed an independent market operator for the reason that you want to separate Eskom from being both the supplier, the player, and the judge. And for as long as the independent system operator is influenced by Eskom, we have a major problem. So they have to separate that. So with the separation of transmission, they also have to separate the regulation and supply of electricity. Those two things can be done fairly quickly, but you know what? It requires really, really hard and confident action by government, action which we have not seen.
And if that, for argument's sake, is being embraced and adopted by the government, then I suppose then there should be clarity as to who will own the transmission, the national transmission assets. Would it be the regulator? Should it be Eskom or another independent body?
Well, initially, to make it simple, we can talk about where it ends up, but initially, the transmission system and possibly with the independent system operator initially can go together under a separate company with a separate board and separate regulation. And the reason for that is very simple. They have different objectives and different goals and so on, different to generation in Eskom and different to Eskom as a whole. So we can start there, and then we can talk about where it's going to go, la. I'm also aware that the union have been very resistant to this because they perceive this incorrectly as privatization, and that's nonsense. It's not privatization. What we're talking about is separating the supplier and the referee at the same time.
All right, Mr. Rossouw, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
You're welcome.